everyone, and welcome to the Withers Collection Museum and Gallery's monthly community forum, Talk About It Tuesday. Tonight's topic is Money Matters, a discussion on financial literacy. Money matters, or money matters, is important to all of us. One of our objectives here at the Withers Collection is to help to engage the community in ways that will help to make our community stronger and help us to grow. This topic of money matters is important to all of us. We hope that something that you hear tonight will be helpful to you going forward. At this time, I would like to introduce to you our moderator for the evening. Miss Janique Bird is a volunteer here at the Withers Collection Museum and Gallery every last Tuesday of the month for Talk About It Tuesday. Janique comes to us and gives of her time and her expertise in many, many ways, and we thank her for that. And tonight, without further ado, I present to you Miss Janique Bird.
I'd like to take an opportunity to introduce our panelists for this evening. Starting to my right, we have Renee Wilkerson. Renee Wilkerson is a native Memphian. She has 40 years of community service. She is a former Miss Black Tennessee. She's been practicing real estate for 29 years. Her designations are ABR, Accredited Buyer Representative, and GRI, Graduate Real Estate Institution. She was a member of Cry-Like and Memphis Area Association Multi-Million-Dollar Club. She is a member of the National Association of Realtors. She is currently a realtor with First National Realty. She is an investor and specializes in residential real estate. Please welcome Renee Wilkerson. And to my left, we have Miss Jerry Witherspoon. Did I get it right, Miss Jerry? Gary. It's okay. It's okay. I apologize. I should have asked. Gary Witherspoon. She is a native of Los Angeles, college graduate, 72, at the University of Northridge with a BS in business. She has 39 years of experience in banking, as well as 7 years at Securities Pacific in Los Angeles, California. She spent 12 years at NBC and SunTrust. She's a mortgage originator and vice president, personal banker, with 20 years of volunteer experience. She's currently with Pinnacle Financial Partners. She came from retirement after 4 years to help those who are looking to buy a home, to go from renting to buying a home. She loves people. Please welcome Miss Jerry Witherspoon. And finally, the lone male on the panel. Y'all be nice to him. We have Derek Dillard. Derek Dillard is a native of Maywood, Illinois, and has lived in Memphis for 5 years. He is currently an assistant branch manager of Orion Federal Credit Union's Carterville location. He has 8 years of experience in the financial industry, including account management, credit card collections, branch banking, and branch management. Derek has a passion for expanding his own knowledge as well as helping others do the same. He strives to increase awareness surrounding the importance of financial literacy and security. Please welcome Derek Dillard. So let's talk about money matters. So the buzzword right now is securing the bag. I'm not sure if everybody understands or knows what that means, but that basically means get the money. It has absolutely no context to it, but that's what we say. My generation, my friends, I'm going to secure the bag. I'm going to work. When we secure the bag, after that happens, then what?
That's an excellent question. And it's funny because a lot of people don't know what that means. Everybody is, a lot of people that I know, especially the younger generation, they're so fixated on trying to meet a want versus trying to understand what their needs are. And it's nothing to be ashamed of if you don't know what you need. A lot of people will say, oh, I know what I need. I need this car from you, Derek. I need this auto loan so I can get this car. And after a discussion, it comes to find out like, oh, I didn't know I needed to have a savings account. I didn't know I needed to have an educational, IRA set up for my baby girl that I wanted to go to school one day. I didn't know I needed to even start a savings. I didn't know. It's all of these things that we uncover through conversation. So it's funny that, again, as Ms. Bird said, we'll talk about securing a bag and going to get the money. And again, that's a media-driven thing. That's, if you see it in all major culture now, it's all about obtaining all of this money. And then nobody's talking about what they're truly doing with it outside of some of this influence we see in some of these rap songs and things like that, where it's just jewelry and buying cars and clothes and stuff like that. But there's so much more to it than just spending your money. It's understanding how to accumulate that wealth and what to do with it and how to set it up for the generations that's coming after you. So many people care about their children, and very few people are talking about what they're doing to set up wealth for their children. So just getting the bag is not enough. It's great. I'm glad that you have that hustle about you, but you still need to know what to do once you get the bag. You need to know about opening accounts and how to save money and how to budget, what to do with that wealth. You look at, and it's not just something that, the average person is dealing with. You look at basketball players and rap stars, and you look at all of this money that they've amounted, and now they're broke. They've got nothing. That's a real thing that happens. That's not just a media story. That is happening to people because they have no idea what to do once they've gotten the bag. They sign and get their check, and now it's like, okay, now what? And they depend on somebody else to understand finances for them. And what happens is it gets misplaced, and there's too much trust put into somebody else for your finances. So it's so important that you understand financial literacy and understand what to do once you obtain this wealth. And even if it isn't a mass amount of wealth, even if you're just, if you're an average everyday working person, what do I do with the money that I'm obtaining?
So that's a perfect segue. Let's start with resources. So now that we've secured the bag, what do we do next? What resources are available in order to financially educate those who are either, let's say they have money to invest, or they're looking to invest, or they have a desire to build wealth? I'll start with you, Mr. Mack.
Ms. Burns, probably a better person to qualify that is Gary Witherspoon. After you get that qualification, then I can tell you what to do with it.
Okay.
Okay, one of the main things that happens is many of us do not like asking questions. And one of the things that all of us should do is go and visit a bank, get to know a customer service rep, someone who is in that area. Once you do that, that person, especially like someone like Derek and myself, when you come in and you say, I want to open up a bank account, we're going to ask you questions as to what are your goals and objectives are. We're not just going to open up an account and give you a receipt. Two, we're going to ask you, what are your goals? There's two things major. One of the major things that young people especially, all of us, first thing we want is to buy a car. But the number one loan that you really want to know about really is, when do I buy a house? And what does it take to buy a house? In our neighborhoods, we got the best cars in the neighborhoods. And we're living in renters. Okay? When you go to the other side of the world, like Collierville, Germantown, they're driving basic cars. They're not driving the big, pretty, fancy cars. They're driving the economy cars. Because their parents have taught them that their number one goal is to one day buy their home, to set up themselves, to establish themselves, that they're going to be secure and have a roof over their head. Whereby many of us, including myself, first car I got, I was in college, got me a Toyota, I was excited. I thought that was the best thing happening in 1972. But didn't know nothing about buying a house because my mother rent all my life. So I figured that's what I'm supposed to do. I'm supposed to rent all my life. And what happened was I started seeing different things. I moved from Los Angeles, I come to Memphis, and rent was $360, so I said, oh, that's cool, because in LA it was $360, but it went up to $1,200. So I'm paying $360, I'm excited. Every year, the rent kept going up, and I'm like, why? When it got to, what was it, Renee, 500? When it got to about 575, now this is my, I didn't tell you guys a secret, but this is my girlfriend. She was the first person I met 39 years ago when I moved to Memphis. And she, I went to her, I said, girl, I'm paying rent. It's $575, it's time for me to buy a house. I gotta figure out what to do. Now, I'm working in a bank. No one has taught me what I need to do. I ended up talking to her because I knew she was in real estate and I needed to quit paying rent because rent, money's going out the door. You're not getting no benefit from it. So we had to discuss how to buy a house. And that's where it came in that even myself in banking, I started helping people appreciate, we got to get out of this $900 rent and get us a house note that might be $600. And the way you do that is ask questions and find you a good banker who will give you some guidance. And they also will share with you some realtors that they know. And if I show this example, and then that way you see the importance why we're here. Renee and I helped a young man, handicapped. He's a computer expert, but I'm talking about literally handicapped. He's bent over, he doesn't walk like we do. But yet still, he's paying rent, $500, renting a nice house. The seller agreed to selling the house. And at the time, the seller chose to pay the closing. And this gentleman, within 45 days, went from paying $500 rent for a nice house to paying $380 for a house note. And the next month, when I went to visit him, he took the carport, and he's adding a room. Okay? So, what I'm trying to help you appreciate, everyone has an opportunity to buy a house. The problem is that we grew up, we got into debt, we got credit cards, because we ain't had nothing but debt and credit cards and stuff of that nature. And it made us have bad credit scores, because we didn't learn why you have to pay on time. We just figured you pay, okay? But we had to teach. And even my son, he hates for me to use him as an example. I'm a banker, I'm trying to teach him, no, he's in Nashville. I'm trying to teach him about credit, and he wasn't listening, so I got a friend of mine who worked in the bank, and I said, she's gonna be your banker. Since he couldn't listen to mom, I found him another banker, so he would listen to her. And he did. And he looks back on it now, he's really appreciative that someone cared to help to explain. And all it takes is just a little time. It doesn't take, you can establish yourself with a banker, visit them once a week or every payday, and they'll be more than happy to share some positive stuff with you, okay? And the more you learn each day, that's when you're starting to build your foundation to get to the goal that you want of first buying a house. You can get your transportation car. Everybody in Memphis has to have a car, because we have a very poor bus service, okay? But that shouldn't be your priority in life. Your priority is to be able to buy a home and be able to have something to take care of, okay? So I just want to share that little tidbit and go from there.
You come back to you, Mr. Jerry, I have a question.
Now, if I may, could somebody pass these out? Because I want each one of you to have one of these folders. And then that way, when I'm talking, you'll be able to look at some stuff, okay? All right.
Okay, so now you got your financing. He's helped you get your credit. She has the loan products to meet your needs. And now I'm going to try to help you find a house. House buying can be a little bit like dating. Have you ever spent years trying to find that perfect one? Only to find out that maybe you waited a little bit too long. And here you are, you've got your microwave dinner, and maybe a glass of wine, and then you're kind of reflecting a little bit about the choices that you made and the ones that got away. Well, house buying can be that way. You can say you can be a little bit too picky. And so what I'm going to do is we're going to talk about, when we talk about the dating, think about how many of us are married. Are they perfect or are they just good enough? Good enough. And I'm going to borrow some words from the Rolling Stones to say, sometimes you can't get what you want, but if you try, you can get what you need. Okay? So, first of all, you want to be realistic. You want to be realistic in your looking, and you want to do your due diligence. Now with computer and internet buying and searching, you can really educate yourself as to what you really want. One of the main things when you're doing your internet surfing is location. Location, location, location. And in doing your internet searching, you're going to educate yourself as to what's out there. And then the next question that you want to ask yourself is, how do I go about this now? You've got your loan person. Now there are two ways that you can do that, because really, when you select your real estate agent, and it's really good to select a realtor that is a realtor, meaning part of MAR. And what that means to you is that realtor subscribes to a certain standard of practices. And trust me, you can check their hands. A lot of times people don't know that, but you really can. And that's, because they've got a certain standards there that the realtor has to subscribe to. So that's the best thing to do. Now, your loan person can direct you to a realtor, or the realtor can connect you with your loan person. And then after you've done your due diligence as to what's out there, you want to look at properties, view them with your realtor. And when I say about being too picky, if you've seen over 8 houses with your realtor, something might be wrong. Really. Because with doing due diligence, you've narrowed it down, you've narrowed the location down, and so you should be able to, but not all the time. That's not, that's not a hard, fast rule. And then sometimes after looking at maybe 8 houses, then you may have to make some compromises. That's where your realtor comes in again with those compromises. They help you not make compromises that you want to avoid. And you think about it, the only person that can continue to be a renter is a rich person. Now, Gary kind of touched on why that's true. Think about it. You get 65, and for the most time, most of us, we may have a pension, we may live off of Social Security, but for the most time, when you are retired, your income has flat lines. It's not going up. But what happens to rent? It continues to go up. And so to be able to stabilize your life and live at a certain standard, you really need to buy. And that house needs to be almost paid off by the time of retirement. So even if you buy your house and then you buy another one, which a lot of times you're climbing, think about taking that equity and paying off the balance rather than incurring more debt according to your income. So because what you're looking at is having a house paid off by the time you retire.
In your folder, I want to add to what she's saying. In your folder, I made a monthly income worksheet. This is one of the major things that all of us need to do at the very beginning of thinking about buying a house. How much money do I have? This here sheet helps you to write every nickel and dime that you get. On the back, monthly expenses worksheet. What kind of bills do I have to pay? Car payment, rent, electricity, car insurance, groceries, healthcare insurance. If we have children, babysitters, it used to cost $50 for somebody to watch my baby back in the day. Today, it's like $250, $300 a week. Okay, so this is real important that you take this sheet, and if you need another copy, you call me. I'll make you another one. But this here is a sheet that you want to fill out, okay? Second, pertaining to this that I put in here, what is your credit? This is one of the biggest things that happens to all my clients. What is your credit score today? I have a sheet in here. It says the 5 factors of credit scoring. I want you to go over your credit. On the back of the sheet, you can write down, do I have 2 credit cards? Do I have 10 credit cards? What are my minimum payments of my 10 credit cards? Car note. We got to have the best and the greatest car. That's almost like paying rent. Our car notes sometimes are rent notes. Okay? But this is real important, because once you go to talk to your realtor, if you've done the homework of these 2 things, then she can then suggest your next step. And I'll come back to her now, because I wanted to make sure that you know that this is your homework. Your sheet, your budget, and what is your credit score. And if you don't know that, then the realtor will suggest, well, let's see how we can now get you one pre-qualified or pre-approved, or both. They're 2 different things, okay? And so I'll send it back over to her as far as this.
I'm gonna interject real quick because a lot of information has been shared in the last few minutes, but I want to take us all the way back, and I'll share a quick experience of my own. Growing up, my grandmother would keep money in the mattress. That was her savings. My father kept money in a shoebox. I didn't keep it at all. So, inevitably, I believe my grandmother shared something with my father for him to put money in a shoebox, and something for her to put it in a mattress, and none of that was passed to me. So at what age does financial literacy actually begin? Because I wasn't taught as a child a saving pattern of how to save money for a rainy day, how to save and pay something outright. Growing up for me, the American way was to finance whatever it is. I mean, even now people are financing phones, but I mean, that's just what, it's second nature to me, doesn't bother me at all. But to those, my great aunt and such, makes absolutely no sense to her. You just need to buy that outright. So when should adults or parents have the conversations with their children about saving money and the importance of, and when to finance something versus when to pay cash and such?
So the conversation can start early on. We open accounts for children as young as 13, 14 years old. They can have their own account, have their legal guardian as a joint on the account. So you can start that conversation early on. There's nothing wrong with talking to a young child about understanding savings. You can accumulate money and still have a terrible credit score because you're not using it properly. You can have a well-paying job and your credit is terrible because, again, you're not managing your money properly. So the conversation needs to start very early on. You want to talk to your young children, like I said, right around 12, 13, because that's when they'll start asking you for stuff. That's when they want an allowance and they want to buy games and stuff like that. Make them understand early on, it's give and take. You're taking this from this area, so they understand about saving and why it's important that now I'm looking at, okay, I'm spending what I should be saving and what purpose am I saving for? This breeds, once they get older, once they get to 15, 16, 17, and they start to work those part-time jobs and everything, and pair with school, now they understand, okay, I can't just go out to the movies every weekend. I need to save this money because I might want to do something, on a field trip, or I might want to do something to get ready for school. I might want to start saving for a car. I started very early on. I started saving for my car when I was 15. My father told me, he's like, if you can get halfway there, I'll go ahead and meet you the other way. I was ecstatic about it. So I started saving early on. Every penny I could grab together, I would save it. If I had to borrow video games from my cousin, or try to borrow a shirt or something because we was going to go out to a little dance or sock hop or something at the time, I was doing that so I could try to save for this car because I was serious about it. And when my father saw that, of course, he honored his word and he helped me with my first car. Now, granted, it was only like $1,000 or something like that. It was a 92 T-Bird, a Thunderbird. It was an old raggedy car, but it meant the world to me. And he made me understand that I saved for that car. And from then on, I started getting real serious about how I was using my money. Because again, at that point, I started working. So now I know this isn't money that's just coming in from my parents. This is money I'm working my butt off. I'm taking time away from other things that I like to do and messing around to be at work, dealing with work all day. And this is what I'm getting for. So I'm gonna make something of this. So with me, I've been learning about saving money. I learned from my grandmother. It started with my grandmother. She started early on with me. I started probably right around 10, 11 years old. She had me filling out, not a checkbook, but just a register. And it was just a basic savings account. But every time I wanted McDonald's or something like that, she always made me take it out so I could understand credits and debits. I could understand, hey, I'm using my money. So it starts very, very early on. Don't be afraid to talk to children. And same thing with adults. If you know an adult who does not understand finances and you have a better grasp of it, reach out to that person and let them know. And if you don't necessarily feel equipped, send them to an institution. Orion Federal Credit Union, where I work, we're great on that. They train us to have conversations with our members. We're not in there just to be salespeople. We do sell products. That's the truth of it. But the fact of the matter is the only way we know what products to sell is we do it through a conversation. And we help understand what you need and what you're looking for. And then we compare you to the best possible product that we have. We're not for profit, so we're not looking to make money off of these products that we sell you. We're looking to reinvest that into things like higher interest rates on your money. And we'll go into that a little bit more. But just to answer that question more directly, it's important to start very early on. And it's continued. It doesn't stop after they get 16 and get their job and now they want you off their account and they got their own little debit card. It doesn't stop right there. You have to continually teach financial literacy, up until a point where someone is ready to buy a house. Then they pretty much got a grasp of it because they understand how this works.
And adding to Derek, when I taught junior achievement, and I told you about the budget sheet, when I taught junior achievement, I had them imagine that they were going to rent their own house. They were going to go get a job. They needed to have different expenses paid. When I finished teaching that course, it was a 4-week course, the parents was calling me saying, this kid ain't leaving. Because see, he came to realize that it's more than mom and dad do as far as letting them come and sleep in that bed. When they started seeing, oh, my mom pays this and this and this and this, they got a reality check. So, like he was bringing out, as great, and he had some great parents that helped him at the beginning. Also, there are times I've seen parents take a coffee can, and this person wants some new shoes, they put new shoes. And then they start dropping quarters and dollars. When they got that amount, then they go buy shoes. But it starts at sad to say the majority of us didn't start. I didn't start. Matter of fact, my first job, I was 16 years old. I went, worked downtown, come home with my paycheck. I gave it to my mom. She didn't open up an account. She cashed my check and she put it away. But I never learned. She never, at that time, taught. That's why so many of us have not been taught. Whatever I needed, she gave me the money. But by filling out this budget sheet, if you even copy this budget sheet and give it to your children, your nieces and nephews, just let them sit there and read it. And they be like, what is all this? They get a reality check that life is not based on a paycheck, cash it and go buy you something to eat, buy you some new clothes. How are the bills gonna get paid? And once you share that with them and practice with them, then they start realizing there's more to life than what I thought.
Can I give you a real life experience of what she said? Our kids grew up together. Those classes that she taught for junior achievement, our kids were in there at age 5, 6, 7, and 8. Let me tell you, I have two sons. Each one of them left home buying their house. 80% of their friends left home buying houses. That's reality.
How long they stay at home?
18, my son was 18 when he bought his first house. Now my nephew, I raised him, and I think Mark bought his house at age 20 because he went to junior college, and once he graduated, he got his first job, and then he went on to complete his degree. But at age 20, he bought his first house. They're both homeowners. Mark probably, he's in Springfield, Nashville, just bought his third house.
So I'm gonna circle back to credit scores. We hear a lot about credit, and I don't know if many understand how your credit score plays into what you're able to buy or not buy, or what your rate will be versus someone else's the same. So and I'll leave that to either one of our panelists to discuss the importance of credit score and what it actually means. And I'm saying that because Derek actually pointed out you can have money and still have terrible credit and such. So just to kind of get some understanding of what that means to all of us and maybe tips on how to improve credit scores or what to do, resources.
Okay, the sheet that I have in your folder, it gives you an outline of what is a credit score. The major number one thing on the credit score is your paying history. That's the number one thing. If you open up a Macy's account and they say it's due on the 5th, you pay it before the 5th, but no later than the 5th. They look at 2 years of paying history. And this is how the calculation is made. Credit card balances. If you got 5 credit cards, then I'm gonna just say $100 balances on each one. And the limit is 100. You're at 100%. You want to be at 30%, so that means you want that balance to be at $30, because that is what affects a credit score. Credit history. The length of time since you had a particular credit line was established. Like many of us, we've had credit 50 years ago. So that's part of the credit scoring. How long have you had this car loan, or how long have you had your house? Those years, the time, the period in there, that contributes to the credit score. Inquiries. You go to buy a car and you go to 10 dealerships. That's 10 hits. It used to be a really effective credit score because they used to boom, 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 but now they're looking at if you went to the 10 auto dealers, they won't count against you as much because you're saying,
short time.
Right. As long as you're with the dealership, okay? Now, based on what he was bringing out about you can have all the money, but if you went bad on your credit, a lot of times you're not going to be able to buy something unless you pay in cash. So the main thing is when you enter into any credit, you've got to learn what is the rule of thumb, or what is the rule of the game of paying this credit. If I want to go buy some furniture because I need some furniture for my apartment, make sure if you buy, say you spend $2,000 to buy furniture, make sure you pay that payment on or before time, not after time. Okay, sad to say, some of them get past 30 days, that's gonna make it negative. 10 days late, it's not gonna make it negative. 15 days late, you're gonna have a late fee. okay, which contributes to that increase of balance, okay? So you want to make sure you pay on time, before time. You want to try, sad to say, I saw a young man and it just blew me away. He had a wallet with 20 credit cards. Nobody, including me, don't need that many credit cards. Credit cards, you need to keep your limit, honestly, under, I would say 2, but as we're young, no more than 5, okay? You gotta remember you got a car loan, installment loan, and you got rent. Now, let's say you have money and you never got any credit cards. You never even got into the credit world. You don't even have a credit score. Well, to me, you're better than somebody who does have a credit score. Because one thing they can look at is, do you pay your rent on time? Do you pay your car insurance on time? Do you pay your cell phone bill on time? Some creditors will look at those credits for somebody who just has money and never had a credit history. But sad to say, the majority of all of us have somehow, somewhere got some credit. And that's where our problem starts, is how we manage that credit. Okay? And so this sheet, like I said, tells you a number of things. Second, once a year, you can get an annual credit report, free. Now, it doesn't give you a score. It just tells you what is reporting on you. And it has been proven that over 50%, a lot of people's credit reports is not correct. It's inaccurate. If your name is, I'm gonna use my girlfriend, if your name is Marilyn Jones, you know how many Marilyn Jones are in the world? There's a lot of Marilyn Jones. So it's so important to look at your credit once a year to make sure that what's reporting belongs to you.
I want to touch on that a little bit. Your credit score is a financial picture of you. And it's so much more than just your buying power. Your credit score can affect a job that you want. If you want a job in the financial industry, you'll notice on your application, they'll ask you, can they pull your credit? If your credit is not where it needs to be, how can they hire you to advise someone else on credit? As Ms. Gary was saying, it's so important to review your credit report. I know I have so many people that I deal with every day that has never seen their credit report, and they're 28, 29, 30 years old, don't even know what their credit report looks like, don't understand how to read it, what it means, don't know if they have a credit score or not. It's really easy to obtain, and it's free. You can get one every year from all 3 major credit reporting agencies, which is Experian, TransUnion, and Equifax. I'll give you an example of what Ms. Gary is talking about with inaccurate reporting on your credit report. My wife's name is Joanna. It's spelled Johanna. Her brother's name is Johan, which is Johan. Every time he would open up a line of credit, she was a minor at the time when we met. She was still 17. Every time he would open up a line of credit, it would attach her name to it. Every single time, even though she had no credit. That was something she had to repair, and it took a long time to repair that, just because it wasn't something that was being monitored all the time. Again, she was a minor. She had no reason to be monitoring her credit that frequently. But when she went to go use it, when she did turn 18 and she wanted to buy a car, be a co-signer on the car, now she's got all these inquiries and all of these hits and everything on there that don't even belong to her. Now that's a totally different, that's male and female, and even though they have somewhat similar names, that just goes to show you how quickly something can go wrong on your credit report. And if you don't check it, nobody's gonna check it for you until it's time for you to use your credit. So it's so important to monitor your credit report. Even if you don't get the score, at least take a look at your report. There's resources out there for you. Again, annualcreditreport.com is one of them where you can get your free credit report each year from all 3 major credit reporting agencies. And then you can also use these cool apps that they got out. A really popular one is Credit Karma. Now, the thing about Credit Karma that I like to tell my members, and I like to tell everybody here, the credit score is not going to be accurate. I'm sorry. I've yet to see it where Credit Karma's credit scores match what your actual credit score is. It's not accurate. But what is accurate on there most times are your trade lines. All of the business that you've been doing, all of these cards that you have open, your mortgage, all of this will show up. And that's what you want to check. That's what you want to use Credit Karma for, to make sure there's something on there that's not out of whack. Make sure there's not this Mercedes sitting on there that you have no idea where it came from, or this house that may be sitting on there when you live in an apartment. So I just wanted to touch on what Ms. Gary was saying, because so many people are not paying attention to that, and they think, well, I didn't buy nothing, so it don't affect me. That's not true. Somebody could be living your life for you. It happens all the time, and it's really, really hard and complicated and difficult to get that stuff off and get that repaired. So please do yourself the favor of making sure that you're checking your credit report at least once a year. I recommend more than once a year. I recommend maybe 3 times a year. I really do. I check mine. And again, I might not do I might not get that annual report, but I'll get on Credit Karma and take a look. Some of your credit cards have access to a credit report for you. That's free. Use these resources so that you can understand not only where your credit score is, but what's happening with your credit history, because that's so important to your financial profile.
Well, let's shift back to mortgages real quick. 15-year fix versus 30-year. What does that mean?
Okay, a 15-year fix, like, let's look at a $100,000 loan. Say you're buying a house for $100,000. You can, if you want to pay your loan in 15 years versus 30, the note will be a little bit higher. You might get a better rate, but it all depends on your credit score. So let's say 15 years to pay $100,000 off, your note might be $1,500 a month for the next 15 years. If you went 30 years, your note might be $700. Okay? So what it is mainly trying to pay a mortgage faster. Now, one of the things that one of the things I learned doing mortgage since I'm a homeowner is, like, say my note is $1,000 and I want to pay it off faster. I just add $100, $200, $300 more to my note, and it's going to pay within that time faster, and I have the rate that I have and the loan is paid in. So you can do one of 2 things. You can lock yourself in at a 15-year note, or go with a 30-year note and pay extra, which will help you pay it out faster. Okay?
Can I say this, and these experts over here can correct me. The good thing, the difference also in a 15-year and a 30-year, the interest rate is a little bit less on a 30-year than a 15. Is that?
That's the other one.
It's the other one? Oh, so it's
Shorter.
less?
It's less shorter.
Right, but less
15 years,
The
less
interest rates is lower. Okay, all right.
30 years.
Understanding that a little bit. Most loans are kind of structured that way, and the purpose behind that is because it's less risk to the institution loaning you the money. Anytime someone loans you money, it's a risk. It's a risk they might not get back. So anytime you have a loan that is termed out longer or has a longer term, such as a 30-year mortgage, you're probably going to get an increased rate on that because they're loaning you the money for a much longer term. If you shorten that term, if you cut that in half, they say, okay, this is less risk, so we're willing to work down your rate on that. And it works better for you that way. Okay, me and this person have the same house, it's around the same amount, but my note is so much higher than this. It's a combination of, again, the rate that they have, which is determined through your credit, and also the term that they have. And anytime you're thinking about choosing a term, especially for something long-term like a home, it's important to make sure you understand your budget really well. That's something, before you ever think about buying a house, please make sure you take the resources that were provided to you today, go online, get some additional resources, go in and talk to a financial professional, and make sure they can sit down. You can even do some financial counseling and make sure you understand how that budget works before you commit to doing something like that. Because there's nothing worse than saying, okay, I got it today, and then something happens, an emergency happens, and it doesn't even have to be a huge emergency. It could be somewhere you sat out in the heat too long and you passed out, and now you got an ambulance ride to the emergency room that cost you $1,000 or $2,000. Well, you didn't anticipate that. Your mortgage is not going to change. Your mortgage company is not going to say, well, we understand that, you don't have to worry about it. No, they still want to get paid. They still want you to pay. But now you have a whole other expense. So it's so important that you understand your own budget and you set realistic goals for your budget. And that will help you kind of dictate what kind of term am I looking at? What kind of monthly minimum payment am I comfortable with for my mortgage?
Let's talk to the young adults who are in college or finishing college and they amass student loan debt. What advice do you have for them as far as trying to pay down those student loans, or how to maybe not amass them in the first place? I don't know if that's a possibility depending on the circumstance, but I'll share that I've heard adults say, oh, I just pay Sally Mae $50 a month and they'll leave me alone.
false.
Not true.
That is not
Just so you know, it is not true. But that's what I heard growing up. And I thought that was it. You know, you pay $50 and that's it, but that's not $1 million. But what advice would you have for young adults who are ready to, you know, take the world by storm and, you know, buy cars and buy houses and all of those things?
They need to first, one thing about student loans, you gotta be very, very careful. A lot of times easy money that you haven't worked for and they give this, you're in school and they say, oh, I'm gonna give you $10,000. First, whatever you get, make sure you spend it wisely. Don't blow it on something. Like buying a car or something like that. But I had a situation where a client had $100,000 in student loan debt. She has not paid the first payment on it. It's been deferred. So, that being said, I had to calculate 0.5% of that $100,000, that her note would be $500. And I had to treat that in what we call her debt to income ratio. Okay? A lot of times getting these student loans, how can I describe it? I went into college, I could have got a lot of student loans, but I did what they call a work plan, where you work while you're in school. Student loans can creep over you and kill you because they're easy to get, but sad to say, we don't realize you gotta pay it back. And they're not gonna defer or give you a break or give you a discount on it, something that has to be paid back. So you just have to be careful. Why are you getting the student loan? What is the purpose of the student loan? And how are you going to be able to pay it back? Because it will have an effect on you when you go buy a house. Now, a car and all that and getting credit cards doesn't have an effect. But in the end, when your goal is to buy a home, they have to count what we call 0.5% times, and I'm just using 100,000 because it's easy to compute. It's $500 a month.
So in terms of student loans, you said that the young lady deferred. So there's an option to defer forbearance or you can pay for loan. Talk about what that means and then expand on the debt to income ratio and how that plays into our buying power.
Okay. Your buying power, there's two, we have like a housing ratio. Like if there, and I'll use the number $1,000. Let's say my income's 1,000, then I can't rent or buy a house that has a note more than $300. That's at 30%. Okay? That's if I make $1,000 a month. That's called a housing ratio. Then you have the debt to income ratio. That's taking the rent and every debt that you have out there. And you can't go past, on some programs, past 45%. If the debt to income ratio is under 45, there are a number of places that you will still do those loans, but you don't want to go over 45. And my goal would be try not to go over 40, because there's some funding programs to help you buy a house that have different margins, such as your name THDA. What's the debt to income ratio there? 43%.
Jared made
It's about the same.
Yeah,
it varies depending on what type of mortgage you're doing. There's different types that you can do.
Right.
So it kind of varies based on what type of mortgage you're doing. But to Gary's point, it's important to understand when you have something like a student loan, it's so easy to ignore it. It's so easy to be like, you know what, I don't got it, so if I ain't got it, I can't give you anything. Don't do that. Don't ignore it. It's not going to be a comfortable conversation. You owe someone money and you don't have it to pay. And if that is the case, you need to reach out to them and find out what your options are. Ms. Burr, our moderator, mentioned things like forbearance and deferment. Those programs can be very helpful. Speaking from personal experience, I had a situation to where I needed to buy a home right away. I needed to do it quicker than my plan allowed for. And the way that I needed to do that is I needed to take some of that monthly, the burden of my monthly expenses off the table. And the way that I did that is I deferred my student loans for a year, just because of the amount of the payment wasn't going to line up with what I needed to do to get my mortgage. It was still counted in my debt to income ratio, which Ms. Gary talked about, which again is, it all goes back to risk. If your income doesn't support the amount of debt that you have, no lender is going to give you that money. Not without being a predatory lending practice, and what I mean by that is someone who's looking to take advantage of it. And those companies do exist. Those companies know there's no way for you to pay this loan back. And what they bank on is you're going to scratch and try to survive as much as you can, and then they garnish you. They take the legal route and they take as much, they nickel and dime you all the way until you no longer exist, until you pass away. And that's how they make their money, and you want to avoid that. So again, it's important to understand your debt to income ratio, because again, that goes into your buying power and making sure that you try to offset that by taking care of your debt. Don't ignore stuff like student loans. If you don't have it, call those lenders and talk to them. See what plans they have available. See what you can do. Don't just send $50 and then ignore the call, because that might be hurting you more than the phone call itself. You might not know, they might have a payment plan for you and they're just waiting on to talk to you to put you on a payment plan for that $50. But if you sending them $50 and they say you owe $400 or $500 a month, all you're doing is sending partial payments and you're hurting yourself. So please make sure you're reaching out to your lenders and make sure you're reaching out and getting information on this. Don't be afraid to talk to them, because trust me, they want to talk to you and they want to figure something out for you.
Let me add to the debt to income ratio. What you count in the debt to income ratio is the rent, car note, credit card, school loans. You don't count your cell phone in the debt to income ratio. You don't count your car insurance in the debt to income ratio. You don't count, what other fun thing? It's mainly revolving credit, installment loans, like car loans and furniture bills, and that and your rent and mortgage loan. That's what's counted in the debt to income ratio. And your goal is that you want to keep it under 40% if you can. If it's at 45, you'd be okay with some different types of programs we have, but our goal to start would be try to keep it under 40%.